Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop on presentation skills. My name is Christine, and I am one of the English support tutors at the Manchester campus. So, today we're going to be focusing on presentation skills. We're going to look at what we should be putting in our PowerPoint that we use for our presentation, and then how to go about talking about our presentation in a confident manner. And should we experience any anxiety, what are some of the ways that we can deal with it? Okay, so let's get started. So, some of the most important things when you are delivering a great presentation is, of course, making sure you are prepared. Okay, prepared for your presentation. You know what each slide is about. You know what's the first slide, how you're introducing your topic, going into your main body of it, and how you will be ending it. So that's where your preparation comes in. Your planning is getting all your relevant information and putting it into your presentation. Okay, now these are factors that are very well known. We know we have to prepare, and we know we have to plan. Now, the factor that we may not look at is our practice factor. Okay, often we're quite busy trying to get it going, that we just want to submit, and then we don't think about what it's like to actually practice our PowerPoint from start to end. Okay, going through each slide, finding out how long will each slide take, and if it is a group presentation, how will I stand with my team members? Who's going to go first? Who's going to go next? Do we know what cue I'm waiting for when I know the person is done talking and then it's my turn? Okay, so these are things we often will not plan to practice, okay, and we don't incorporate it in, and it does make presenting a little bit more worrying because we're like, oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen, and then you are more anxious. Okay, so if you prepare, if you plan, and if you have sufficient practice, it will be all the great elements of delivering a fantastic presentation. Now, just one more point in practice. Remember, how many times you need to practice to feel confident will differ from person to person. Maybe your classmates need to practice about 5 times and they got it. Maybe you need to practice once or twice, and that's all you need to feel confident. Okay, so you should find out what is sufficient for you in regards to practice. Okay, so let's look at your PowerPoint. Okay, so most of the time your presentations would be in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. So you got to design it, make sure you have all the information on it. And this is where we are looking at the following points. Okay, we want it to be simple. Now, this is often the hardest point to follow because we have all this information and we want to make sure that the lecturer sees our PowerPoint and they're like, oh, all the research has been done, and all our classmates can see that we have spent a lot of time. So we want to pack in as much information as we can. But unfortunately, that's not often the best policy. Okay, so you want it to be simple, focusing on facts that you can elaborate. So have it as literally a sentence, very short, full of key facts that you need, okay? Because if you have a paragraph per se, it's going to be difficult because you're going to be reading from the PowerPoint and not engaging with the audience. Now, each slide or each PowerPoint should have a clear and meaningful message. Now, if you have a lot of text, it may demonstrate that you haven't found out what is your main topic and how best to show that you understand the message behind it. So you want to make sure there's a clear focus in your PowerPoint, okay? So remove all the unnecessary information, only focus on your key points. If you run out of space and you have sub-points, put that aside and keep that for when you will talk about it in class. And use quality visuals. Now, if you're using a graph or a visual or a picture, make sure it's high quality and it represents additional information, okay? Now, I've got a meme here and it says, for my presentation today, I will be reading the PowerPoint slides word for word. I have attended presentations where the guest speaker did that, and I will say it wasn't the best for me. I want somebody who knows the material, who's able to connect with me as the audience, and who understands what they're saying. I mean, I can read the information myself and get what you are trying to say, but the whole point of a presentation is when you are presenting, okay? So let's look at steps in your planning. Okay, so you are now at the point where you have planned your topic, you got your presentation topic, you are looking at preparing your structure, and what your structure would look like would generally be an introduction, your main text, and your conclusion. You were preparing your slides. How exactly are you going to focus this information? Okay, with your introduction, is that going to be a slide 1 or slide 2 to have introduction? How long will your main text be? How many slides will that be? What type of information are you going to use? What visuals are you going to use? Preparing yourself. Now, that's often very important, okay? Topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, all these lovely steps that we have here take a lot of time to get done, okay? And you spend a lot of time working on it. However, this tends to get left out. Preparing yourself. How do I feel about the presentation? Am I feeling confident? Do I feel like I have enough information? Can I read from my presentation clearly? Okay, these are all questions you need to answer. And the last bit that unfortunately may be a lot of causing a lot of stress is delivering your presentation. And this is where you say, okay, I want to speak about it. I'm planning on speaking about it. I gotta get it done. And then you go to class and it's very, very stressful, okay? However, if you do step 4, preparing yourself before you deliver your presentation and go over all your questions. Can I do this? How can I do this? What do I need in order to feel confident to deliver this presentation? Delivering your presentation would be slightly easier, okay? Because you have made it the best presentation for you, okay? So you feel confident presenting it. Okay, so let's look at planning. And there's a lovely little quote here, but failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. There are many things that you can do without. Thank you for joining us. There are many things that you can do on the spot that requires very little planning. For example, if you want to make a bowl of cereal, all you do is walk into the kitchen, take your cereal out, get your milk, and done. Okay, it's very little thought process that needs to go, very little pre-planning, unless you have to go to the shop and get the set ingredients. But when we are planning our presentation topic, we will have to look at what is your brief asking you to do. Sometimes your brief will say use a specific format, use a specific reference system, and it will give you an idea of how many slides you should have or what your word count should be, and then you can put them all together. All right. So that is very, very important to make sure you look at your assignment brief, you read it, and you understand it correctly, okay? Because the last thing you want to do is just go at it and then halfway through, then you have a good read at your assignment brief and you realize you have done it incorrectly. Okay, now, second part of planning is who is the audience, okay? Your audience would generally be your lecturer or your fellow classmates. So think about them, think about the questions they would want to ask you, think about the information you want to present to them, and what you want them to learn about your presentation. So what do they know about the material? That'll be all the information you give them. And very importantly, what do you want them to learn? Okay, so if you have taken your presentation, got a whole bunch of information, haven't really read through it, just popped it on, pasted it on, and it's just large paragraphs, you haven't made this clear for your audience, okay? So they will be wading through all of that text, unsure of what they need to know. So as my point said earlier, keep it simple. Focus on what specific knowledge you want to impart to your learners. Okay, so let's look at planning. Okay, so now we're going to look at preparing your structure. So write your presentation script or notes to help prompt you. So you are able to have speakers notes that you can have to give you prompts, okay? You can add on to your PowerPoint. You can also have little cue cards if need be, and then you could go through them with little words of prompts to help you to remember what you are going to mention when it's relating to the slide on the screen. Also, we want to focus our structure with our introduction, our body, and a conclusion. So we definitely need to have those specific slides to show the transition from introducing a topic, going into your main body with all the information surrounding that, your points on your topic, and ending off with the conclusion. Now, I do have this as a point where you may need to add in a reference slide. Again, this is very much based according to your assignment brief. Some assignment briefs may not ask for it to be added in. They may ask for your references to be at the bottom here. Okay, so you may or may not need a reference slide, and that is according to your assignment brief. Remember, this is just general information regarding presentations in overall points, okay? So consider your main points. Now, you want to get your main points across, and there's a time limit for your presentation. So if you don't identify your main points, you will consider everything a main point, and then you will want to get out as much information and you may cross your time limit. Okay, so you need to find out what are my main points. The audience absolutely has to be aware of my main points, and then you can have sub main points where it's important but not as important as your main points. Okay, so consider the absolute criteria that you want, or the main criteria that you want to be conveyed to your audience, and then focus on that. Okay, so if you do have time for sub points to focus on, then by all means, please go ahead. But general rule of thumb, focus on your main points first. And if you have time, you can add on your sub points. Now, when you have found your main points, they will require a visual for clarity. Now, why I say some, decide on which of your main points will require visual for clarity. Because visuals add in a nice emphasis. It's also good aid for us to take a break from all the text that we are reading to focus on a visual. It may convey the same information with a visual, okay? So you don't need to have text all throughout your PowerPoint. However, having a visual will help with the understanding, okay? Because sometimes you see a picture and you immediately know what that picture is representing. Okay, so now we don't want to also have too many visuals. So for example, I have one visual in my slide here. If I had a visual here and a visual here, I'm going to label that visual 2, visual 3, and let's do a long one. Vis visual 4. Okay, so it looks very, very cluttered with all these visuals here. Okay, so we want to focus on just maintaining one visual or two if need absolutely necessary. Okay. All right, so let's look at planning. So we're going to look at preparing our slides. We would have a very distinctive introduction and a conclusion slide. We want to start off strong with a good introduction. And that is when you are going to clearly state what your presentation is about. Okay, you're going to introduce it. You, if necessary, you may add in an argument in your intro, and then in your conclusion slide, now that's right at the end of your presentation, you are going to not include any new information. Okay, so you're going to summarize your key points in the concluding slide if need be, depending on your assignment brief, but generally it would take all the information you have discussed throughout your presentation and conclude it with the main points. Now, always we want to keep our slides clear and concise and try to include only your vital information. All your extra points or extra notes should be added to your speaker notes, okay? Keep your PowerPoint as simple and clear as possible. Now, this is also interesting. I'd just like to highlight this a bit. One message per slide. So if you were discussing pros and cons of, for example, AI, you would have one slide focusing on the positives on AI, and the next slide will focus on the negatives. Okay, so let's try not to crowd too much information that is going to cause a bit of confusion. Of course, use graphics. Make sure you have images and graphs to convey your important informations. Like I said, the visuals are a good key to understanding what's being said in a very quick way. At a glance, look at your graph, you're like, okay, this is representing the positives of AI in university, and the next visual will represent the negatives of AI in university. Okay, so it'll be a quick way for us to assimilate information. So we're looking at planning. So now we have decided what our slides are going to be focusing on, all the information of it. Now we're going to talk about design. Let's design it. It's going to be up on the screen. We want something that we can look at that's aesthetically pleasing. You can use color. Okay, but don't be afraid to use color. I know a lot of the presentations will have a basic white with black font on it, and that's the general overview that presentations take. So you can use color, but use it in moderation. It will help to make your slides stand out a little bit more. Your audience may be a little bit engaged with you because they're like, oh, that's a pop of color. It's interesting. It catches my eye. For your font size, you want to make sure you're using a large, simple font. Okay, and here are some examples for you. Of course, this is very much determined by your assignment brief. Okay, they will tell you what font to use, and they will give you an possible font size also. Okay, but if you are not given the font size, you can use 18, 20, 24. Just so it's large and easy to see. Okay, so let's have a look at our visual here. And this visual is focusing on bad font choices. All right, so this font is far too small. The first one, you got to really squint in. Okay, so imagine this being presented. Nobody's going to see this without having to check or come up really, really close to the presentation board to have a look at this. Now, this font has the opposite problem. It is far too large, okay? It's distracting, it's taking away from the message. All I can focus is on this large font. This font is too fancy, okay? It's a bit hard to read sometimes. So we don't want to do that. And this font color, it is difficult to read. Now, if you notice, the bullet points were all leaning towards the left. However, this bullet point is on the right. And it doesn't add up very well with the other lines. And you see the next bullet point is here and looking very disconnected, okay? And it's hard to read. So let's avoid these and focus on simple font. Now, here is an example of a slide, and it has a lot of information. And the title is a really, really important slide. Now, my question is, does it look good? And of course, this is depending on your aesthetic, okay? But does it inform, excuse me, okay, so back to the question. Can I get information about the slide very quickly? And the answer is no. I cannot find out what's the main point. I do not know what are the subpoints within it. I do not know what is the focus of the slide. And I say that because there is a lot of information. So this means I'll have to spend a lot of time reading through this and listening to you read through this to try and find out what your point is. Okay. So we want to make sure it's all the main points are easy to identify. Now let's have a look at this. So this has some quirky visuals on it. What about this? It's all about a watch. It's about technology. I have grasped that in seconds because there's a person wearing the watch. I can see there is socials and multimedia aspects to it. So that was a very, very quick look at to gain the understanding of it, okay? Compared to that, lots of text, not sure what's going on. All right, so let's look at planning. Are you clear on what you want to say? Where are you presenting? Okay, so if you know what you are going to say, it will help with you. Where are you presenting? It'll probably be in your room, in the classroom. Do they have a projector? You should know the answer by now. And very, very importantly, have you rehearsed enough? Okay, make sure you read through your presentation, you time yourself, you check you're within the time limit. And if not, check if there's anything you can do to either increase your time or decrease your time. As an example, read a bit slower if you have enough time. And if you have gone beyond the time limit, maybe take out some slides and just focus on only the important points. Okay, so what things would help you be more comfortable? Think about the clothes that you wear. Maybe you want to get a clicker to help click along the slide so you're in control of when is the next slide so you don't feel anxious that somebody else is going to put the next slide when you're not ready or still talking. Okay, these are options that you can discuss with your lecturer. Okay, like I said, timing, very important. Try and keep about 60 seconds per slide. Obviously, this is again divided by how many slides you have according to your allotted time given to you in your assignment brief, okay? So if you have 10 minutes and you have 12 slides, then you can divide that and see how long each slide should take. But as an approximate, 60 seconds or 1 minute. Now, split your time according to your main points. Okay, so you want to focus on your main points so you get your view across and stick to the time. Okay, practice and time yourself, and of course, cut it away if you can't fit it into the time. Okay, so let's just quickly speak a little bit about a fear presenting. So it is a very common fear. Okay, I do have some stats here for you. 74% of people fear public speaking. It's ranked the number one fear in a survey. And it may activate your fight or flight system. Okay, so if you have experienced these symptoms before, dry mouth, adrenaline, shaking or shaky voice, sweating, increased heart rate, you are feeling very, very anxious. Okay, so what can we do if we feel this way? So this may sound a little I don't want to use silly, but it may sound like very obvious advice, but take deep breaths. Now you say, Christine, I am breathing right now. Okay. But I want you to take deep, focused breaths when you feel this way. Control your breathing. It will help slow down your symptoms and you will feel a bit better. Sip some water. If you are in the classroom and you're feeling very, very anxious, just tell the lecturer, I need to go outside, get some fresh air, come back and step away from the situation, center yourself, and then go back into the room. Okay. So you'll obviously need to check, why am I feeling so nervous? You'll be like, oh, do I look nervous? Will I mess up what I'm trying to say? Will I get a mental block? And will people sense I'm not very confident? Now, this is very, I like to highlight that because people don't know if you fake it. If you feel very, very anxious and you pretend just for the presentation that I am confident, I feel anxious, but I'm going to pretend like I'm confident. And think about somebody you know who's very confident as a confident speaker, and you just pretend for those few minutes. Nobody will know that you are not feeling confident at that time. And also, what will people think of me? Your lecturers in the class, they want you to do well. They think the best of you. Your fellow classmates are just as nervous or even more nervous than you. So they all want you to do well. Okay. So everyone has the best intentions for you and they all are rooting for you. Okay. So I like to talk about visualization and goal rehearsal. So if you have time to go into the classroom that you're going in to do your presentation, just like stand in the room and pretend you're looking out into the classroom. You think about all the people in your class, see some bored people, imagine them there. Some will be bored, some will be on their phone, some will be listening to you, and that will happen to any type of presenter. People will be lost in their own minds. So a lot of them are not even really listening to what you're saying. Some of them will be practicing for their own presentation. So just visualize you talking about it. So you can also imagine yourself speaking clearly, looking relaxed. Think about how you'll be standing. So if you imagine it, it's not going to be so scary as when you walk into it and you're like, oh, I haven't done this, really nervous about this. It just helps to imagine yourself doing it and doing it well. Okay, so if you're really scared about somebody asking you a question, imagine somebody has asked you that question and you have responded well. Okay, you have answered that question to the best of your ability and you have done well. Now, what I always used to do when I used to get nervous with public speaking was like, oh, when this is done, I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be so relieved. It's going to be such a great feeling knowing it's done. And I always try to hold on to that feeling when I'm doing public speaking. Be like, oh, great. Okay. So I want you to think about yourself feeling really happy and accomplished because you have done your presentation. Okay, so if you were preparing for an interview, what would you do? You do all the things to make you feel really confident. I'll leave that there for you to think about, okay? And try and use the same steps that you would do preparing for an interview or a presentation, okay? Of getting into that mindset. Also, if you do have a shaky voice and you're unable to continue, pause. Take a deep pause in the middle of your talking and take a drink, okay? And then ground yourself, as in just look at objects around you, remind yourself that you're here, find objects to count if need be, slow down. Okay, if you are speaking far too quickly and your voice starts to shake, take a minute, and like I've said before, deep, focused breath. And then that will help you to slow down. Okay, so if you have been stopping and starting and you feel incredibly nervous, pause, slow down, find yourself. And then when you speak again, speak it strongly. Just because you have been uncertain and your voice has been shaky doesn't mean the rest of your presentation will continue like that. Okay. Sometimes I've had a little squeak when I first started talking, and then I'd be like, oh, that's so embarrassing. What's everyone going to think about me? And then I've literally done this, taken the time to pause, slow down, and then when I spoke again, I used my normal speaking voice. Okay. It's happened to all of us. It is a technique that we do to just focus on completing what we need to do. Okay. So, do you like to practice breathing? I know it's an activity that we do constantly to keep us alive, but focus breathing. So if you get so nervous that it feels really uncomfortable, always helps to breathe. So take a deep breath, put your hand on your tongue and take a deep breath in. And then you're going to feel your hand move because your tummy is extending in. And then you breathe out. And then you can do that a few more times. And then out. Okay, I would say a minimum of at least 3 times to center yourself would be helpful. Okay, now it's good to fake confidence. Look at this little cat, looks in the mirror, thinks they're a lion. That's going to be the same if you don't feel confident. Fake it. So, standing tall, don't slouch, look up, open your chest, use your gestures in your hand if you need to be, move around. You don't have to stay in the same spot when you're presenting, and you can vary your tone. Some voices, when you want to add special emphasis to something, slow it down, speak in a slightly deeper tone so everyone knows that you are now adding emphasis to that. So if there's students looking at you, you can smile at them and they're smiling at you, give them a smile back. It's great to have some contact and try to maintain eye contact, okay? It is helpful. So let's say you ask an awkward question, you can stall. If you don't know the answer, be like, oh, that's a great question. Thank you. I will get back to you. Be honest if you don't know. Just be like, I'll look that up and then get back to you. So it doesn't need to be a point where it's going to be completely throwing you off balance. It happens to all of us. And you can also signpost where they can get that information and you can get back to them with that information itself. So, some of our takeaway points: prepare. Preparation is key. Practice, practice, practice. Reframe your anxiety. It is a natural response. How we deal with it will make the world of difference, and fake it until you make it. And use these techniques to help you feel calmer. Okay. My name is Christine. This is my colleague Kieran. We are the English support team at the Manchester campus. Here's our email. Please feel free to reach out to us. These are some of the things that we can help: your presentation skills, practice, assignment skills, and we offer this in person and online sessions. Thank you for attending.